You know, every single time a new Disney movie comes out, it's even better than the last one. Yeah, they were going downhill for a little bit, but ever since Princess and the Frog and Tangled, they have been getting better and better.
I went to see Zootopia, and halfway through I'm like, oh my god, this movie is so intersectionally feminist, and I wasn't even expecting it. I love it when that happens.
Oh look, a feminist is ruining things that other people enjoy. I hate it when that happens.
From the beginning of Zootopia, we get a strong message about inclusion. In the film, we follow Judy, a small female bunny with a dream of being a police officer. But every step of the way, others doubt her because she's small. And it's heavily implied because she's a girl.
Well, yes, she is a girl. However, there are other girl police officers. Even her drill sergeant was a female.
Filthy toilet! You're dead, fluff butt!
Personally, I don't think it was about her being a girl. I think it was about her being small. Kind of like how Captain America used to be small and skinny and tried his hardest to get into the military.
The message is pretty explicit. Even if your dream job is something traditionally male, you can do it too, ladies.
Now, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that message. However, that's not what intersectional feminists are about. What intersectional feminists are for is lowering the bar so it's easier for females to become police officers, firefighters, and soldiers.
This woman on the game show Fort Boyard is a firefighter.
I hope they've taught you how to knock down doors.
Definitely.
In you go.
Oh no!
This is tough.
As high as you can.
Yeah.
As high as you can. As high as you can.
Take a bigger run up.
She's a hard lady.
Come on, Jane. Remember the elbow. Big run as fast as you can.
That's
and
it,
high.
go for it.
High.
Oh.
High.
So close.
As fast as you can. Well done.
Get going. Oh. Jane, come out.
Come out. Come out.
Jane, that was such a great effort.
Okay.
Yeah, I think just 2 more throws and you would have been there, but that's tough for you.
A man with no firefighter training has no trouble with the same task.
It's a bit of an ouchy one, I think. Be aiming higher, that's it. You got it! It's on the floor. Okay, brilliant. He's got the key. Come out. Oh, yeah! Okay, fab! Brilliant. Well done!
A woman can actually fail the physical component of the fireman test and still become a firewoman to meet female quotas. Firewomen are paid exactly the same as firemen, who are more physically able and better suited to the job. This is wrong, and a very substantial pay gap should exist in the fire service, and also other services. That's right, you heard it here first. Male soldiers, male police officers, and male firefighters should be paid more than women. This is not about being unfair to women, it's about being fair to men, and recognizing their greater efforts, their greater abilities, and their greater risks.
There was even a case where a woman failed the female physical requirement to become a firefighter. Guess what feminists did? They bitched and complained until the fire department lowered the bar even more so she could become a firefighter. In other words, women's feelings are more important than human lives. What has this country come to?
Just like being a huge elephant has its advantages in the academy, so does being a nimble bunny. Everyone has something that they can bring to the table.
What? Laci, the elephant was also a girl. You can't be serious. You have to be doing this on purpose just to piss people off.
When a handful of otherwise peaceful predators in Zootopia go savage for seemingly no reason, social relationships between the predators and prey become very tense. Fear causes the animals to act irrationally, and violence breaks out. We learn that the predators are 10% of the population. The filmmakers definitely want us to know this is a metaphor for a minority group.
True, the predators are the minority. However, they take up most of the police force, most of the dancers, and even the highest government official in the city is a predator.
Put an ad on the front page. Cash money for a picture of Spider-Man.
They're not really stereotypical jobs for black people to have. If they really did want the predators to mimic black people, they would have the predators make reaction videos. Why are all the reactors black? The only characters I would say are treated like a black minority are the foxes, and that's about it.
There are a couple takeaways here. One is that an us versus them mentality divides and hurts us all.
Well, Laci, I do agree with you that an us versus them mentality is very bad. However, I do have a small question. Why do you and so many other feminists have the men versus women mentality?
Another message is that well-intentioned people, or bunnies, sometimes say damaging things. In Judy's address to the press, she unintentionally fuels the tensions by claiming that the savagery might be biological.
For the record, in the movie Zootopia, a lot of the animals' behavior was based around their biology, especially the sloths.
Officer Judy Hobbs, CPD, how are you?
I am doing
fine.
Well. What?
Hang in there.
Can I do?
Well, I was hoping you could run a play.
For you.
Well, I was hoping you
Today.
Seriously, Zootopia, what are you trying to say? That certain races' behavior has everything to do with their biology, while other races' behavior has nothing to do with their biology? This just really bugged me throughout the movie. Or maybe I'm looking way too deep into this and it was just meant as a joke.
This is a really interesting parallel to racism. A common argument against the existence of racism.
Existence of racism? Are there people who say racism doesn't exist?
That black Americans are biologically inferior.
Oh, I get it. You meant to say a common argument people use to legitimize their racism.
In Zootopia, the real cause of the problem is that predators are being unfairly targeted without anyone seeing it.
For those of you who haven't seen Zootopia yet, what Laci Green means by this statement is someone is literally targeting predators and shooting them.
In the USA, it's that the poor and people of color are unfairly targeted by systemic forces.
Got any evidence to back that statement up?
Without anyone seeing it.
So it's there, but no one can see it. Oh geez, I've never heard that one before.
So here Zootopia offers a simple way of saying, hey kids, social problems are more complicated than they appear, and we have to be careful not to point the finger at the wrong cause. Zootopia offers a lesson about authority as well. Are police and local government bad or good? Zootopia weighs in and says, well, kind of both. Some authorities are good, and some are bad.
To be perfectly honest, the only cop throughout this movie who abuses their authority is Judy. And she does it like a ton. She even follows Nick into an ice cream shop just because he's a fox.
You want the red or the blue, pal?
The bad eggs are a big problem because of the power they hold. They're protected by the system.
No one was protected by any system at all. Judy was nearly fired just for leaving her post, and both the mayor and the assistant mayor were immediately arrested by the mere implication that they did something wrong.
The film shows that authorities can do a lot of damage, and it's not always easy to tell who's corrupt. So, I mean, it's pretty heavy stuff for a kids movie with fluffy animals, but it's important stuff, and if I was a parent, I'd take this as an awesome conversation starter.
What would Judy do here? By here, do you mean sitting down on this bench and doing nothing? I'm really confused by this picture.
You know what? Disney's been doing a lot of that lately. When I was a kid, we had movies like The Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast. Now we're getting movies like Frozen, about sisterhood, Inside Out, about emotions and mental health, Big Hero 6, about non-violent solutions to conflicts. I mean, it's pretty rad. That's not to say that there's not room for princesses and fairy tales, of course, but it's nice that Disney is using their platform to creatively explore the tough stuff too.
Well, no, The Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast had tough messages too. You were probably just too young to understand them. Beauty and the Beast was about not judging people on the way they look. And The Little Mermaid was about independence.
That's my take, anyway. Let me know what you thought about Zootopia down below, and I'll see you next time on Braless.
Before I end this video off, I just have a quick question for everybody. Does anybody else think that Laci Green is related to Dan Green? I mean, both of them have the last name Green. It's just something that I've been thinking about. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. Red Robot also made a video about this whole Pokemon drama thing. And I hear that other people from the anti-feminist community are going to join in on this little drama. I'm not even bothered by this anymore. I'm just interested to see where this is going. It ain't easy being Laci Green. That was my Kermit the Frog impression. Terrible, I know. Today I'm going to do a commentary on one of Laci Green's videos. Now, a whole lot of people have talked about this video, and I was tempted to jump on the bandwagon when it was going on, but I wanted to wait, mainly because her video had a lot to do with a Toby Turner rape allegation that was still going on at the time, and I wanted to wait for it to die down a bit before I talked about it, so we can all look at it with a clearer mind.
Hey internet, question. Have you ever worried that someone was lying about rape?
Yes, I am afraid that someone might be lying about being raped. However, I am also afraid that they might be telling the truth and no one believes them. The thing about rape is it's a very hard thing to prove. Pretty much all people have to go off of is one word against another.
It's my word against yours.
Really, the only way we can be certain if someone was raped is if we put cameras everywhere, but that would be a breach of freedom. The only advice I can give to people who are raped is don't take a shower after being raped, mainly because you'll wash off all the evidence.
Every single time a woman comes forward about having been abused by a beloved movie star, musician, TV star, YouTubers, that star's fans immediately accuse her of lying.
Well, it's not always just their fans. There are many people who hate Tobuscus, yet they still called her a liar. Now, I myself am not really a fan of Tobuscus. I don't hate him, but I never really found his videos entertaining. Another thing is Laci. Tobuscus is really popular. I mean, really popular. And this girl was just a nobody, and she did this much damage to him with just a Tumblr post. Yes, it is true that a lot of people called her a liar without looking at the evidence. However, there were also many people who called Tobuscus a rapist without looking at the evidence.
There are men's groups online that claim that women lie about rape 90% of the time.
I've looked in your description. You have no links to any websites that say this. I also love how you said men's groups. Could you be any more vague? Now, I'm not saying there is no website that says that, but if there is, could you please provide evidence for it?
A sheriff in Idaho very recently claimed that they don't need a better system for rape kits which collect evidence because most victims are liars.
The majority of our rapes that are called in are actual consensual sex.
The thing is, rape kits can only detect when sex happened, not when rape happened. What a rape kit can do is take a series of swabs from the vagina, asshole, and mouth, then do a series of tests to find out if sex happened or not. However, it cannot detect if rape happened or not. Also, you're taking that officer out of context. Here's the context to what's going on.
I believe the legislature needs to take a strong look at allowing law enforcement to do their job and not trying to dictate what we need to do. I think that they're trying to help. I really do.
The proposed legislation would create a statewide system of collecting and tracking the physical evidence in a sexual assault case. Part of that bill would give clinics the responsibility of sending rape kits for DNA testing. That's unless the victim requests otherwise. Currently, law enforcement is in charge of deciding if a kit should be tested.
They need to let us decide if we're going to send the kit in and when we send the kits in. Because the majority of our rapes, not to say we don't have rapes, we do, but the majority of our rapes that are called in are actual consensual sex.
Rowland says after interviewing an alleged rape victim, police often find it was not actually rape. Things just went too far and someone got scared.
It's a 17-year-old girl, and she had consensual sex with her boyfriend, but didn't know how to tell her parents. Or her parents are mad because she did have consensual sex, and well, you couldn't have said yes, you had to have been raped. What does that do to her down the road? What does it do to her partner?
And I mean, look, couldn't you or me or anybody in the world just make up a rape for attention to get revenge out of jealousy, as Toby Turner's mom posted on Facebook? Yeah, you could totally do that. But would you do that? And how often does that actually happen?
Laci, you're playing into people's biases. Couldn't you or I rape someone? Yeah, you totally could. But would you do that? You see how that sounds? And there are many more reasons why someone would falsely accuse someone else of rape, such as mental illness, to hide infidelity, and there was even a case where a woman just dreamed about it.
The FBI states that between 2 and 8% of rape reports are false.
The 2 to 8% of rape allegations are false statistic is one of those bullshit feminist lies, like the wage gap or 1 in 5 women will be raped thing. The citation she puts up on screen, the Criminal Justice Information Services Division Uniform Crime Reports program, has absolutely nothing to do with the 2 to 8% statistic. Now, it has a little to do with rape, like what counts as rape. However, it has nothing to do with the 2 to 8% figure. Now, some of you are probably wondering, where did this 2 to 8% statistic come from? Well, it came from Susan Brown Millers. She got the information from a judge who made a speech in front of a small crowd of lawyers, and his evidence for this was a small section of New York where female police officers were the only one conducting rape interviews. So in other words, this is not evidence. It's an anecdote on top of an anecdote on top of an anecdote. It's like anecdotal inception. Even if the evidence wasn't anecdotal, the sample size is much too small.
Which is actually a low number in the crime world. Other crimes, like say theft, they hover around 10% false reports. And even that 2 to 8% statistic is deceptive.
So the statistic is not bullshit enough, and you have to add even more bullshit on top of it.
It includes reports where someone accidentally identified the wrong person, reports that are thrown out because of inconsistent details, but it is a well-known fact amongst victimologists that trauma affects your memory.
That is true. 1 point for Laci Green.
And that 2 to 8% includes survivors who recanted. Someone could take it back because they were lying, sure, but much more commonly, they take it back because they're being pressured to take it back.
Oh, bullshit.
Many of the reasons why we're inclined to doubt someone revolve around rape myths, myths about victims, and myths about gender. For one, most perpetrators aren't greasy, creepy guys who hang out in the shadows. They're just regular people in our lives. When fans, friends, family, coworkers find out that someone that they know and love did something terrible, it can be really hard to grapple with and accept, and instead, they choose to deny it.
Well, I do agree with some of the stuff you are saying. What about those people who are not friends, family, or fans, but still think they're innocent?
That halo effect around a perpetrator can be so strong that you can have cases like Cosby's where nearly 60 women come forward and report, and people still don't believe that anything happened.
While I personally do think Bill Cosby raped some of those women, not all of them, just some of them, I am no one's judge or jury, and it's not up to me. And while it is baffling that 60 people came forward, and there are people who think absolutely nothing happened, it is even more baffling that people to this day believe Mattress Girl, even though the court decided that absolutely nothing happened.
Sometimes the perpetrator even goes so far as to say, "I didn't do it." They're lying.
Are you kidding me? Sometimes the perpetrator goes so far as to say, "I didn't do it." How is that going too far? Everybody says I didn't do it. Both innocent and guilty people. And this is one of the many reasons why the hashtag Laci Green raped me started. Because if someone said Laci Green raped me, her response of course would be, "I didn't do it."
This affirms people who don't want to believe that the sexual assault happened. There are a lot of people, particularly in the States, who believe that in order for a rape to be real, you have to have reported it. And in order for that report to be true, a court must convict them as guilty.
Well, Laci, that's how the American justice system works. Innocent until proven guilty. Now, of course, there are some guilty people that can't be proven to be guilty. However, there are just as many, if not more, innocent people who are said to be guilty when they are not.
In reality, about 68% of victims of sexual crimes don't report, and only 2% of rapists ever see a day in jail.
Laci Green is referring to this graph, which has so much bullshit in it, it's actually hard to figure out where to start. First, let me explain what this entire graph means. The red figures are rapists who have been jailed. The brown figures are rapists who went to trial. The light brown figures are rapists who were reported. The clear brown figures are rapists who are not reported. And the two little black figures at the bottom are people who were falsely accused of rape. First thing you probably noticed is why are the falsely accused in the non-reported section? You have to be accused in order to be falsely accused. So these two black figures should either be in the reported section or the phase trial section. Second, all the clear brown figures are not reported. The statistic of rapes that are not reported is already bullshit, and we have no clue how many non-reported rapes are true or not. Yes, you can make guesses, but guesses have no place in statistics, so we can take them all out. Now we're down to exactly 100 figures. Now you probably have noticed that only 2% of the figures are black. They're already using the bullshit statistic 2 to 8% of rape reports are false, but now they're using the lowest percentage possible on top of that. You have got to be kidding me. The very last thing I'm going to bring up is that we can combine the dark brown figures and the light brown figures and call it rape reports that we don't know are true or not. This entire graph is just a whole bunch of bullshit statistics all combined into one. I can't even call this bullshit. It's like bullshit to the 5th power.
Does that mean that 98% of people are just lying? No, it means that our courts aren't arbiters of truth, and they're not always adequately equipped to handle sexual crimes.
I'm pretty sure if you and the other feminists ran a court, you would just throw every single man who was accused of rape in jail.
Then there are myths about how a real victim would act. In reality, there's no one response to sexual assault. Different people handle it in lots of different ways.
I do agree with you mostly on this point, Laci. However, it's pretty suspicious when someone writes a Tumblr blog and doesn't go to the police.
Another myth when it comes to men is the belief that men can't actually be raped. Men want sex all the time. He had an erection. He was into it. But an erection is not consent.
Well, Laci, do you know what group started that rumor? It was feminism. You know, the group you're a part of. Also in countries like Britain, when a woman rapes a man, under the law, it doesn't count. And before you say a woman can't rape a man, watch this scene from Rick and Morty.
Almost. I haven't quite captured your beautiful eyes.
I'm sure it's good enough. Move! Every weekend, Jackson Roses have their Titanic experience in this car, and I have to mop it up. The floor drops out to make it easier. But now it's my turn. We're going to get it nice and steamy in there. And I'm going to slam my hand on the steam and leave a nice handprint. And then you're going to love inside of me. No mess. No clean.
Beth!
Just so you all know, I did not show that clip to say, "Ha-ha! This is pure evidence that a woman once tried to rape a man." I showed that clip so I could ask the question, would you count that as rape?
Lastly, one of the sneakiest and I think most pervasive reasons why people don't believe survivors is that most survivors are women.
Bull fucking shit. Women are far more likely to be believed if they have been raped than men. If a man tells people that he has been raped, if he's lucky, he'll be laughed at. If he's unlucky, he'll be the one being thrown into jail. Also, if you include prison rape, men are far more likely to be raped than women.
There are many subconscious sexist beliefs that we learn all throughout our lives that come in and inform our opinions. That women lie a lot, we're not trustworthy, we're manipulative. You know, bitches be crazy.
The media also talks about how women are cleaner than men, how women are more caring than men, how women are kinder than men, and how women are overall better than men. One of the most cliched type of episodes in children's programming is the girl power episode. Also, I think people get the idea of women being liars and manipulators from feminist. I was going to look for an example of a feminist lying and manipulating, but then I realized I don't need to. You have been doing that this entire video.
Those attitudes and biases within ourselves go unchecked, they absolutely do real damage. But wait, what if it really is actually truly false? False reports are illegal, and they're typically taken pretty seriously when they surface.
Remember earlier how I brought up Mattress Girl? She was a girl who made one of the biggest false rape allegations of all time. Guess what's happening to her now? She is seriously receiving the award, Woman of Courage. If a woman makes a false rape allegation, if she's really unlucky, she might end up in jail for a year.
Which is why we also need to talk about the reality that sexual assault accounts are nearly always true.
Wrong!
How we more readily believe someone who says they've been robbed than they've been raped.
Well, one is more easier to prove than the other.
How men are far more likely to be sexually assaulted than to be falsely accused.
This might surprise you, Laci, but some people would rather be sexually assaulted than falsely accused of rape. If a man is sexually assaulted and tries to report it, he'll be laughed at. But if a man is falsely accused of rape, his entire life is destroyed.
If false reports are something that worries you, know that statistically, you're on the side of reason and justice and truth to believe someone who comes forward.
Wrong!
We need to be willing to face the truth, to approach justice honestly, even when the perpetrator is someone that we know and love. So to April Fletcher and any survivor who finds the strength to come forward on YouTube or beyond, I believe you.
And that's the second reason on how the joke Laci Green raped me started. Throughout this entire video, Laci Green has been using the word perpetrator and victim, not accused and accuser. Once again, trying to manipulate people. Before I end this video off, I just want to play this clip from Star Trek The Next Generation. I really think it sums this entire thing up.
Tarsus has all but done the same. How? He refused to answer the question about his Romulan grandfather.
That is not a crime, Worf. Nor can we infer his guilt because he didn't respond.
Sir, if a man were not afraid of the truth, he would answer.
Oh, no. We cannot allow ourselves to think that.
Sir, the Federation does have enemies. We must seek them out.
Oh, yes. That's how it starts. But the road from legitimate suspicion to rampant paranoia is very much shorter than we think.
Hey guys, happy Halloween. You probably noticed that...
Hey Jar!
Oh Jesus, it's Bill Cipher! Except for the fact that he's square. In fact, he looks nothing like Bill Cipher, except for the fact that he has similar hands and legs.
The professor gave me an upgrade and now I have a new body. Hooray!
So this is your Halloween costume?
No, this is what I'm gonna look like all the time. Isn't it awesome?
Hold on a second. So the professor put in you an artificial gravity cube and not me?
Actually, the professor just did this to make me more useful. He thinks I'm an airhead.
Colt, shut up.
Oh, nice costume.
Thanks, it's Saitama for One Punch Man.
Never heard of it.
It's an anime about a guy who trains really hard and now he can defeat anyone.
Oh, like the show you're obsessed with. What was it? Dragon Balls?
It's Dragon Ball, and One Punch Man is a completely different show.
Sounds like it. Guy can defeat anyone he comes across based on sheer willpower alone.
Lots of shonen animes are like that.
So a lot of shonen animes are boring and contrived?
Colt, shut up! You're on my channel. If you talk like that, you'll piss a lot of people off, and I'll have to deal with it.
Sorry, didn't know a lot of people on the internet were offended by silly things like that. The more you know. Anyway, who are we doing a video on?
One of the biggest feminists there is, Laci Green.
Aren't you always saying how great her work is, and that she made some show about a children's card game really funny?
That's Dan Green.
She looks like someone who doesn't understand how the world works.
Oh, trust me, you have no idea.
It's that time of the year again. I'm so ready for spooky stuff like horror movies and cavities, but maybe not so ready for the horrors of sexism and racism.
Don't forget the scariest thing of all. Straight, white men.
And don't forget the most racist thing of all. White people culturally appropriating.
Oh hey, Laci here. Halloween is a ton of fun, and thanks to the internet, it's also become a bit of a show showcase. Like, wow, look at all the ignorant and insensitive people in America.
Oh yeah, because feminists are anything but ignorant and insensitive.
A lot of people are ignorant about Halloween, but not in the way you think. Now I could tell you why, but I would rather get my slave Colt to do it.
I'm not your slave, I'm your assistant. There's a difference.
Of course there is. One is paid, one isn't.
I'm not paid at all.
I rest my case.
Fine, but only because I want to. Anyway, the term Halloween comes from All Hallows Eve, which was a day that was celebrated by the Catholics the day before All Saints' Day. The Celtics used to celebrate All Saints' Day with a festival called Samhain, which means summer's end. It was believed that on the 31st, the dead crossed into the world of the living, and people would leave treats around to ward off spirits. And they'd also wear masks, so they'd blend in with the spirits. How Halloween became what it is now is because of Scottish and Irish immigrants. They brought over a lot of their traditions, including the jack-o'-lantern, which used to be carved into potatoes, turnips, and beets instead of pumpkins. Another tradition they brought over was trick-or-treating. They would go to house, getting food and candy for being in a costume, and if they didn't get anything, they would prank the house, either through egg bombing or stealing their mailbox.
Looks like you're actually useful for something.
Hey, I'm very useful.
Might I remind you about the battery acid incident?
You're not gonna let that go, are you?
Yay! Now, I'm always trying to be a little less than I was yesterday, which I often fail at.
And how?
You're one to talk, Colt. You fail at that all the time.
But if you're trying to too, here are some things that we can do during Halloween time. Idea number 1, say bye-bye to slut shame.
Idea 2, say bye-bye to feminism. If only.
Sexy Halloween costumes actually became a thing after the sexual revolution. The whole idea behind them was that women have a right to our own sexuality and self-expression.
Except when their idea of self-expression clashes with your own. In that case, fuck those people!
For our generation, Mean Girls definitely solidified the concept of a slutty Halloween costume.
I think the only thing Mean Girls did was solidify the idea that Lindsay Lohan shouldn't be in movies anymore.
That was actually pretty funny.
But showing skin doesn't mean someone's any less of a human being or any less entitled to basic human decency and respect.
This is something feminists talk about a lot. They want to dress up in whatever they want, but they don't want to be treated any differently. Well, if that is true, then can a white guy dress up in an Indian costume and not be treated any differently? I'm just saying, if it's bad to slut shame, then it should also be bad to cultural appropriate shame, or whatever the word is.
If you want to talk scary, slut shaming is often the first mental step someone takes toward justifying acts of sexual violation on Halloween night.
Well, Laci, that's a pretty big claim. And I can see that you have no evidence in your description to back that claim up. And a statement without evidence can be dismissed without evidence. But just for fun, I'm going to use some evidence.
Oh boy! My turn to read out the facts again?
No, Colt, I got this.
Well, that's no fun. Are you sure you don't want me to read a little bit?
Nah, I got this. The study looked at crime statistics from 1997 all the way to 2005, and they found no increase of sex crimes during Halloween Day. Now granted, 2005 was over a decade ago. However, according to a police officer in 2014, every time he worked on Halloween night, he saw no increase of crimes during Halloween night.
Let's not forget the officer did provide crime reports to back his statements up. So it's not like he's talking out of his ass. Wish I could say the same for you, Laci.
So let's go ahead and leave that crap in the past. Idea number 2, why settle for sexy? On the flip side of the coin, there's something weird about the fact that the female versions of costumes are always sexualized versions, even for little kids.
Laci, how is that sexy? It's just a long-sleeve leotard. And judging how that's the only example you have, I'm assuming that's the most sexualized costume you could find.
There's firefighter, and then sexy firefighter. There's pizza rat, and then a sexy pizza rat. Well, pizza rat's always sexy, but you get the idea.
There's computer and sexy computer. Come on, ladies, you know you want it.
If you want to get sexy, that's awesome, but it shouldn't be the only option for costumes based on your sex, and certainly not imposed on little girls.
Well, Laci, it is not the only option. There is nothing stopping women from buying the regular firefighter's outfit. The reason why a lot of women pick the sexy outfit is because they want to.
I know I do!
When we have a choice over how our sexuality will be presented, we draw the line between sexual subjectification and sexual objectification. As more people speak up and talk about this, companies have actually started to crank out more costume options, so keep on rabble-rousing.
Well, Laci, that is how supply and demand works. However, you shouldn't force people to buy a particular outfit. You should let them pick what they want to pick. It's really funny how sexy Halloween costumes were started by feminists during the sexual revolution, but now feminists want to get rid of it. I love how the latest generation tries to tear down what the last generation has created.
Idea number 3, maybe don't do blackface. You can still totally dress up as Crazy Eyes or Olivia Pope, just without the face paint.
Who are you talking about? Who does this? This is not a normal thing in Western society. In fact, it's frowned upon.
Dressing up in blackface has a long and ugly history. It started as part of minstrel shows which used caricatures of black folks for comedy. The joke? Lol, black people, aren't they so stupid?
Yes, but Laci, if someone dressed up in blackface now, they wouldn't be dressing up as a black person. They would be dressing up as a person dressing up as a black person.
Many people who do blackface are explicitly calling on racial stereotypes as part of their costume. It's a type of mockery that targets people based on their skin color. Even if disrespect isn't the intent, that doesn't change the impact. Blackface effectively reduces black identity to a costume.
Okay, Laci, who is this for? The whole 5 Americans who actually do blackface? If anything, this is just making people want to do blackface more.
Modern day racial inequalities aren't something that people of color can take off at the end of the day. They're a daily reality.
Okay, Laci, I'm really confused as to what you're trying to say. Are you saying people who wear blackface get to experience what it's like to be black? Because I highly doubt anyone is stupid enough to fall for this.
Idea number 4, just like races aren't costumes, neither are cultures. Costumes like geisha or Indian rely on degrading racial and cultural stereotypes.
There's the cultural appropriation I know and hate. I think Roaming Millennial said it best.
Cultural sharing does mean that there's always a risk of potentially misrepresenting another culture or engaging in something that it would consider distasteful, like how it's not accurate to say that samurai are Chinese or that the Day of the Dead is just like a Mexican Halloween. But the thing is, while those opposed to cultural appropriation might be doing so on the grounds of guarding other cultures, the hands-off approach actually makes this sort of ignorance more likely, not less likely. It's pretty easy to realize that if you're encouraged to explore, experience, and participate in another culture, you're way more likely to learn about it than if you're told to stay away because it's not for you.
Also, wearing a geisha is not a stereotype. It's a job. By that logic, non-white people shouldn't be allowed to dress up as astronauts.
It also further normalizes white America's tendency to disrespect and mock cultures that are different from our own.
Okay, Laci, I will agree with you that some people who dress up as other cultures are doing it in a mocking way. However, the overwhelming majority of people just want to dress up as an Indian, or just want to dress up as a samurai.
The implication is that white culture is normal and superior.
First of all, whatever culture you grew up in is normal to you. And second, what do you mean by white culture? Do you mean Western culture? Because looking at other countries, yes, Western culture is superior. But Western culture isn't exclusive to white people. Anyone of any race can be a part of it.
Now, America's lack of cultural competency is nothing to brag about.
America does not have a lack of cultural competency. America is one of, if not the most diverse country there is. And you know what? I think that is something to brag about.
Least of all with a tacky costume. There are a million costume possibilities, and I think we'd all do better at tapping into our creativity instead of recycled toxic garbage.
I love feminist logic. If we get rid of sexy costumes, there will be more costume options. Getting rid of sexy costumes won't make more costume options. If anything, it will make less costume options. If you really want people to express their creativity more on Halloween, then ask the cosplayers to start wearing their cosplay outfits on Halloween instead of just at conventions. By the way, Laci, how long ago did you make this video?
It's been an entire year.
Oh, I guess I'm a whole year late to the party then. Well, I'm gonna go off trick-or-treating. Oh wait, I'm a robot. I can't eat candy.
You just figured that out? Jeez, I thought I was the one with a few microchips loose.
Well, since I'm dressed up as One Punch Man, I guess I could try to take out things in one punch.
Oh, cool. What are you gonna start with?
You. A big thank you to Christina Prime for the new artwork. If you want to see more amazing art from Christina Prime, link to both her DeviantArt and YouTube channel will be down below. Tell her I said thanks. Also, there's something new I'm starting called bonus videos. These videos will be unlisted and you can only find them in my new playlist. Bonus videos are just videos that are done in a different style than what I normally do. My first bonus video is basically what characters can defeat Saitama from One Punch Man. I highly recommend you go check it out. I have never jumped on a Laci Green bandwagon before. Normally I talk about a Laci Green video after everybody else has talked about it. But today, I'm jumping on the bandwagon. Today's video will be on Trans Men Explain Male Privilege.
If you don't think male privilege exists, you are wrong.
I love how this video starts. If you disagree with me, you're wrong. Talk about treating your opinion as if though it's fact.
Gender bias is often ignored because it seems invisible and subjective to those who benefit from it.
Yes, Laci, I do agree. I'm pretty sure you don't notice that women almost always get custody of the children.
Trans men have experienced both sides of the gender-divided society, so I'm gonna let them explain male privilege in their own words.
Yeah, but didn't you just pick a bunch of trans men who agree with your narrative? I'm just saying you have the power to pick who's on your show.
Male privilege is the bullshit idea that men are better than anybody else.
By anyone else, do you mean women? Second, how is that a privilege? Plenty of women also think that they're the superior gender.
Male privilege is the ability to move about the world in the way that you want to.
There is no law in America that says women can't do the same. By the way, remember what he says here, because we're going to come back to it.
It's the experience of being left alone and free to be yourself.
I don't think you know what left alone means. Also, are you signed up for the draft? And have you sent that check to your ex-wife for child support?
Privilege is also like the absence of experience. As a man, I have the privilege of getting on New York City subway train at 1 in the morning and don't have to worry about a man wagging his dick at me.
Has that really happened to you? And if it did, what do you want? Do you want it to be against the law? Well, guess what? It already is. It's called public indecency.
The first time I noticed I had male privilege was when I was walking home from hanging out with a bunch of friends who happened to be women. They had expressed being a little worried about walking home in the dark, and while I was walking, I realized that I had no worry in the world about being talked to or stared at or followed or assaulted.
Oh, so you felt more safe. Well, guess what? Men can be assaulted too. In fact, men are more likely to get assaulted. Also, if you're walking around like this, you're going to get the shit beaten out of you.
So a man could just walk down the street and no one is going to bother him. No one's going to ask him to smile. No one's going to ask him where he's going. No one's going to ask him if he's married. No one's going to ask him if they can walk with him. But this is something that I know women experience every day.
Have you experienced it? Can you prove that women experience this? And by the way, someone saying good morning to you is not someone sexually harassing you.
Post-transition life, my God, walking down the street is so glorious, I can actually think.
I love how sexist that sounded. As a man, I can actually think.
First time I ever experienced male privilege was on social media. I've always been the type to express myself and talk real crazy. And when I did it prior to transitioning, it wasn't okay. But the minute that I transitioned and everybody looked at me as that male figure, it was like, oh man, that's hilarious. I'm like, hey guy, I've been hilarious all this time. So what are you talking about?
So you're saying you experienced this on social media? Interesting. Did you know you don't have to be trans to change your gender on social media? You can say you're a girl if you're a guy, and you can say you're a guy if you're a girl. And let me tell you, every single guy I know who has lied about being a girl has told me the same story. They said they never received so much free stuff.
An unexpected aspect of male privilege for me was being taken way more seriously than I was before, and it's funny because I have all the same ideas, still thinking about the same things, and yet sometimes I would literally just be talked over or laughed at. Now people will often quiet down.
I know I have said this a lot throughout the video, but it's still relevant. Do you have any proof of this? Because anecdotal evidence is anecdotal.
And having experienced that from both sides of the spectrum, as female and male, I call bullshit on that right now.
You call bullshit on what? I'm so confused.
Male privilege and sexism isn't just a problem for women, but it's also about liberating ourselves. Masculinity is very diverse. Masculinity is what it is to you. You don't have to be a brute. You don't have to be an athlete. And my masculinity looks like a man who likes puppies and babies. And there's nothing wrong with that.
That is true, there is nothing wrong with that. However, in today's society, there is something wrong with being a tough man. If you're a man and you try to do something tough, toxic masculinity!
I was in the club this night and my brothers are around. I think it might have been Single Ladies. Something came on. And I'm like, the Single Ladies, the Single. And they go, you're a man now. Men don't wild out to Beyonce like that. And I said, but it's music.
How is that a privilege in any way? Do white people have privilege because they can't say the word nigga? Also, earlier in the video, this was said.
Male privilege is the ability to move about the world in the way that you want to.
These two statements contradict one another. Laci, you really should fire your editor.
There's no one way to be a man. There's a spectrum of masculinity and just be chill.
What if a man wants to be a tough guy? Would that be okay?
If a guy wants to really understand male privilege and understand what it is, talk to women.
And if a woman wants to understand female privilege, she should talk to a man.
Step back, listen to what other people are going through, ask them what they're going through, and I think you'll see that the world doesn't run exactly the way you think it does.
Listen to your own fucking advice and leave your fucking hug box.
You're doing nothing wrong by having privilege. It's just what you do with it that matters.
And Laci is using her privilege to push her political agenda.
I'd like to thank all of our guests for giving their time and thoughts on this issue. We'll see you next time.
So it's pretty obvious what Laci Green is trying to do. She got a bunch of trans men who agreed with her narrative, and then said, look at these trans men. They have experienced both genders, and they prefer being a man. Therefore, male privilege is real. But guess what? Not every trans person agrees with you, Laci. For example, Blair White is a trans woman, and she thinks she has more privilege being a woman than being a man. There was also a book called Self-Made Man. It was written by a feminist, and it was about her experience being disguised as a man. She expected to get a whole bunch of privilege being disguised as a man, but after 18 months being disguised as a man, she decided she liked being a woman better. Wrecked Feminist did a very good video on it, so if you want to know more, link to that video will be down below.